This is a Sitting Ringside with David Penzer. Quick Fix on Radio Influence.
Former WWE ring announcer and one of the only people other than myself who got to do this for a living, Justin Roberts. I know this has gotten a lot of news lately based on current events, but you had people giving you a hard time. I know a lot of people know the story, but in a nutshell, tell me a little bit about that and what you went through. Remember, you're 22 at this point, 23?
Right, 22 years old. Wanted nothing more ever than to work there, and then I finally got there and was just, happy and proud and excited to be there. I worked really, really hard to get there, and then when I got there, I realized it's not a friendly place to newcomers, especially young announcers who don't take bumps, who are coming in, and there were people who just wanted to make my life hell. So they did. And, that came up, of course, in the news when there was speculation about other people's situations. And they said, well, in Justin's book, he talks about this, this, and this. So, yeah, I tell my full story, the good, the bad. And some of the stuff that came up was stuff that people learned about some of these characters and said, well, this happened and this happened according to Justin's book. And, no one disputed that because there were a lot of guys around for all that. So everybody knew that everything I put in was true. But then, how it tied in with the current events, and that was just speculation. But I didn't bring that up in hopes of, going after anybody.
No, you couldn't have known. You couldn't have known what was going to happen. You were just telling your story, and it just was it just seemed to the same time that your book was coming out, something that sort of touched the nerve of what you wrote about happened. So, and hey, but let me ask you a question, because as somebody who's been on plenty of ribs before, I don't know if they were as cool as some of the ones that you went to, but I've been on the other end of a lot of ribs, being in the wrestling business. I tried to put myself in your shoes in some of those ribs. So I know on one of the international tours, you were sitting in the front of the bus, and some of the guys gave you a hard time because you should have sat in the back of the bus. Then you sat in the back of the bus, and they were giving you a hard time because you sat in the front. You should have sat in the front of the bus. What would have happened? And I'm sure this probably went through your mind, if you would have gone up to those people the next day on the tour and say, I know I'm just a ring announcer and you're a veteran and I want to show you respect. Where would you like me to sit? Do you think that would have helped, or do you think they just would have found more ways to make your life miserable?
I tried everything to have it end, to just be done with getting messed with. And, I went along with everything. If I knew then what I know now about how the company is, like, Vince would have loved me if I stood up to them and just, told them to whatever. But when you're a 22-year-old who worked their butt off to get there and didn't want to make any waves and didn't want to do anything to upset anyone, I didn't realize back then that the higher ups would have loved that if I stood up to them. I thought if I stood up to them, I could get fired. There was no way out, even if I approached them and asked them about what I could do. I mean, I would, off the record, ask guys, what should I do? Just don't sell it. Just don't sell it. That's really all they would tell me, is just don't sell it. So I don't know. I feel like I tried everything, but nothing worked.
Sitting Ringside with David Penzer can be found on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, and RadioInfluence.com.